Hi, this is Rubat Khan again, and in this video we're going to look at how to rotate elements in a one-dimensional array. So let's get started. Given a 1D array, if I have to rotate the element rightwards in this direction, then the first thing we need to do is save the rightmost element in a temporary variable. So before we start rotation, we need to store this element in a temporary variable. So let's store it over here. And then we have to shift the remaining elements one space to the right. That is, we have to start from here. Let this be I, and I equals length of the array minus 2. And this is definitely I plus 1. And what I have to do is I have to shift the element of this cell I to I plus 1. So if this array is pointed by A, then what we have to do is we have to write this line. So as a result, this 5 will get replaced by 4. Now, if I run this line in a loop, the rest of the elements will be shifted one space to the right. So this 4 will be replaced by 3. So let me use a different color. And this 3 will be replaced by 2. This 2 will be replaced by 1. Okay. And as we are copying and pasting, this element at index number 0 will remain as it is. And finally, what we have to do is we have to replace this element with this element that was stored in the temporary variable. So this gets replaced by this. So what we basically did is we ran a loop over this line, and every time an element got shifted, this I moved leftward, which means I decremented. And when the loop ended, outside the loop, we have to write another line where we have to replace the first element at index number 0 with the temporary variable. And if you look at the result, all these elements are rotated towards the right. Now, how to shift elements or how to rotate elements in a two-dimensional array. Given a two-dimensional array, if we have to rotate upward, then we have to do the same thing as we did in the 1D array. We have to store this entire row, or in other words, we have to store all the elements of row number 0 in a temporary place. Now the trick here is, this time, the number of elements is multiple. Therefore, one temporary variable will not be enough. In this case, what we can do is we can store all these elements in a temporary array and this array will have the length as the number of columns of the 2D array. So this 2D array has 4 columns. As a result, this temporary array will be of length 4. So just like rotating elements of a 1D array, before we start shifting the elements, we have to store these elements in temp. So let us store 1, 2, 3, 4 in temp. So after storing these elements, we start shifting these elements. So 5 will sit over here. So let me use a different color. So 5 will sit over here. 6 will sit over here. 7 and 8. The shift is happening something like this. If I is a pointer to the rows and j is the pointer to the columns, what we're doing is sorry, we are moving the elements from I plus 1 to I. So if I run this line, one element gets shifted. In order to shift all these elements, this line has to be inside a nested loop. Okay, so I need two loops. So this is loop 1, which will run from 0 to number of rows, or it will run from 0 to number of rows and number of rows minus 1, because if the loop runs up to number of rows, so if I is over here, I plus 1 will give an error. Therefore, run the first loop up to rows minus 1. And the second loop should run from 0 to number of columns. Okay, because the column number is same. This 5 was in column 0, and when we shift it upwards, the column number doesn't change. So after the loops end, or after this part ends, the resultant matrix or resultant 2D array will look something like this. Then what you have to do is you have to replace these elements using the elements you stored inside the temporary array.